All right, folks, this is a continuation of our minerals, part two, starting with potassium. So, the most powerful role for potassium is probably going to be our sodium potassium pump, where uh, we're able to perform active transport of things to go in and out of our cells. Potassium, being that electrolyte, is vital for our homeostasis of electrolytes in our blood and in the stimulation of our heartbeat, of our muscles, and transmission via our nerves. Potassium, this is why the 4,700 milligrams of potassium is so incredibly vital to human functionality that I can't emphasize enough. Whatever your sodium status is, folks, it is vital to make sure that your potassium status is really fantastic. Um, the nutrient buddy for potassium, obviously, what offsets it is sodium and also chloride, because sodium chloride, like potassium chloride, fit together quite beautifully. When we are deficient, this will manifest as a reflection of what its function is. That one, we're having low energy. The muscular cramps can come in, but don't forget, muscular cramps also could be a sign of things like magnesium deficiency, calcium deficiency, sodium deficiency, and what we'll talk about in the future is low fluid intake, dehydration. When we are low on potassium, it will experience stomach disturbances. For different people, that may manifest differently, but that will influence a person's desire to eat and what they'll eat, which means that's part of the impact on nutrition intake. And irregular heartbeat, because it stimulates the heart. In extreme deficiency, a person can experience confusion, but that's more so going to be reflected in the electrolyte and fluid deficiency as a comprehensive experience. Can we overconsume potassium? Yeah, we could, not through our food though. If we did, it's really going to be via overconsumption of supplements, or if it were, for example, a potassium injection, or what we learned from World War II is that when people were starving to death, when the soldiers first found and liberated the concentration camp victims, they panicked. These people were starving to death, and their first response was to give them food. Uh, Very heroic efforts, greatly appreciate that. Unfortunately, though, when a person's potassium levels become very low, they're secreted out of the cells. And what happens is when a person suddenly takes in food, the potassium will surge into the cells, overstimulate the heart, and it will fail. And they'll drop dead. And that's what happened is a lot of those people who survived the Holocaust in concentration camps unfortunately died upon liberation when they were exposed to food. And like all deficiencies, excesses also are reflected in imbalance of the human body, and in this case, the vomiting, like the muscular weakness. Our dietary sources are pretty comprehensive in terms of plants, folks. So this is something to take into consideration on your diet analysis project, is if you were low in potassium, hands down, that always tells me you are low in vegetables. First and foremost. Second, that though is to consider that your fruits have potassium in them. Your beans, your potatoes, they have potassium also. Salmon, hey, salmon's almost on every single list because it is truly at the top of the food chain in terms of nutritional value. Storage, well, I'm not sure if we store it necessarily like we store fat, but potassium does largely reside in our intercellular fluid and inside our cells, so we can kind of refer to it as being a form of storage. And how are we exposed to potassium above and beyond our intentional dietary intake? Well, one is an artificial sweetener, acyl sulfate potassium, and secondly, as a flour improver for refined grains, potassium bromate. The concern I'll raise, though, is that potassium bromate is illegal in all countries around the world, developed nations around the world, with the exception of Japan and the United States. Uh, it has a cancer warning on it for good reason, and this is what raises the issue: is that when people say they can't eat bread because of the gluten, is it really the gluten, or is it additives like potassium bromate that's upsetting their system? Some food to think on. Pun intended. All right, chloride, another electrolyte necessary for our electrolyte balance. Chloride plays a powerful role as a part of your hydrochloric acid in your stomach to denature your proteins. It has, as I already mentioned, the nutrient buddy with sodium chloride, and potassium chloride, both of which have roles in your stomach along with hydrochloric acid in the digestion and denaturing of proteins. Can we experience a deficiency? Yes, we can. Either one, when we're not taking in enough electrolytes through our diet, or two, if we're experiencing extreme sweating in the heat, which is why Gatorade includes chloride in its ingredients for athletes, and three, or people who are exercising in general more than an hour. And then three, if a person is extremely sick, whether food poisoning or anything else, with vomiting and diarrhea, that will upset the electrolyte balance in the body, and they will lose their chloride. No known upper limit. Yay, don't worry about that. And where are we getting it from in our diet? Well, table salt's probably the biggest one, which includes all those processed foods, but also basic things like our seaweed, our lettuce and tomatoes on our burgers. So no real concern of people being deficient in chloride. Okay, iron, vital for the production and balance of our hemoglobin and our myoglobin, the delivery of oxygen. It anchors the oxygen in the middle of the proteins, blood proteins. Iron also plays a role as a cofactor in enzymatic reactions. It is necessary in the production of cells, amino acids, the creation of amino acids, and in our hormonal communication system and neurotransmitters. Storage inside of cells, but really you want to think of it a little bit more as being stored in your liver and your spleen, predominantly where it's recycled. And then, of course, we do have a fair amount of iron in our bone marrow. People who experience deficiency are typically going to be an iron deficiency anemia. They will feel a sense of fatigue and apathy because of the lack of enough oxygen being delivered. They will experience cold sensations, which means cold fingertips, cold feet, cold body wide. In terms of pica, this is a unique disease that's a response to the anemia, iron deficiency anemia, where a person will have a desire to eat non-nutritive foods, meaning children who are outside playing in the garden and they start eating soil. That would be a form of pica. Or pregnant women who are eating non-nutritive things like chalk. That would be pica. So the people most likely to experience pica are going to be pregnancy or reproductive years when they're extremely deficient. Pregnant women because they have an increased volume of blood, and reproductive years because the body's growing so darn fast. And women menstruating, losing blood. Infants, toddlers, and teens because of their fast growth rate. And obesity. Why obesity? Because with a greater body mass, we have an increased blood circulation throughout the body, greater need for cells. And that goes hand in hand. Oftentimes, obesity is born out of excessive carbohydrate intake, which does not have iron in it. Can we overconsume iron? Yes, we also can over-retain iron in our body. That's a very specific type of disease. When we overconsume iron, typically from supplements, we will experience a strong GI distress, pain, discomfort there. We may experience, like a deficiency, fatigue, mental depression. But sadly, because of the recycling and storage in the liver, you can damage your liver, you can damage your bones, and induce things like heart failure. Our iron sources, there are two types of iron, folks, heme and non-heme. Heme is blood-based, so any animal that has blood is going to be rich in iron, so meat, fish, poultry, the dark parts of the poultry, by the way. Your legumes, your beans, are a rich source of the non-heme iron. We also have dark leafy greens that are rich in iron. Spinach is a great example for Popeye. Enriched cereals like cream of wheat have iron added to them. Natto that you guys tried. Natto is a wonderful source of iron because of the soybean. Molasses, along with calcium, rich there. Pumpkins, soybeans, cashews. Cool part about cashews, they are the one nut that is a rich source of both iron and zinc. And that plays an important role, if you recall back to calcium, is that carrier that delivers calcium out of the stomach to the intestines can alternatively carry iron with zinc. Never carry both iron and calcium at the same time. Iron and zinc have to be delivered together from the stomach to the intestinal tract. So the fact that cashews have both of them in their food product, wow, that's pretty darn cool. When we consume heme iron, the meat, fish, poultry factor, we absorb a heck of a lot more efficiently than when we access our iron from plant-based foods. And the reason is because of the presence of phytates in beans and oxalates in our vegetables. These block our body's ability to effectively absorb all of the iron. We will only absorb a portion of it. Tannins that are in those teas and coffees also interfere. So if you're eating a steak and drinking a cup of coffee, not a good move. High fiber foods can perform chelation, attach to the minerals, and carry them out. Hepcidin, not that I'm worried about you guys coming across that. So it's a hormone from the liver, but you would be a special person if you're on that list. And if you are, please contact me, okay? You would be aware of it. If you are not anemic and constantly experience lethargy, then let me know, please. In terms of how could we lose our iron? Well, first and foremost, blood loss, whether it be an open wound or extreme menstruation, blood loss, or digestive problems, and those being including ulcers. All right, zinc, nutrient buddies with iron, right? You got that? Those two are nutrient buddies. Zinc is typically found in our foods that are rich in protein, like our that are organ and tissue meats. It does serve as an antioxidant, but it's a conditional antioxidant where we're not able to utilize it body-wide. Zinc is vital as a part of the expression of our DNA. It is necessary in the production of blood. It is in macronutrient metabolization. It's a cofactor for those enzymatic reactions. And therapeutically, in an acute care setting at the hospital, we use zinc to help reduce diarrhea. Zinc is also nutrient buddies with vitamin A for the immune system, which means hence when we're deficient in zinc, we also have a low immune response. Zinc is vital for distinguishing flavors in the taste of food. So when we're deficient in zinc, we don't have a strong sense of taste for different flavors, which of course then starts to defeat our desire to eat. Low zinc also will result in a loss of appetite. Hair loss, it's not just biotin, folks, but zinc plays a role in hair strength. Night vision, zinc and its relationship with vitamin A is also involved in functionality and health of the eyes. When people have a zinc deficiency and they have wounds, it means that their wound healing will be delayed. It will be slower. Or if they're lying in bed for long periods of time, the integrity of the skin will break down and they'll develop bed sores, which means zinc is also used in healing wounds. And when a child is deficient in zinc, it will impact their growth and their development. Can we overconsume zinc? Oh, heck yes. And when we do, it interferes with the carrier being able to deliver the iron, because you have too much zinc, it can't pick up both, and it just kind of shuts the system down. And an excessive intake of zinc will also interfere with our copper absorption. So keep in mind an upper limit is 40 milligrams a day. At the top of the list for zinc is oysters. Oysters are a profound source of zinc, folks. So I want you to take into consideration, if you eat oysters, how many do you consume? If you were to put the oysters and lay them out on the palm of your hand, are you consuming 2, 3, 4, 20? The reason I ask is because oysters are a very rich source of zinc. Let's put it this way, 3 ounces, which is probably around 3 oysters, 77 milligrams of zinc. That's almost twice as much zinc. Now, once in a blue moon, no harm, no foul. You just means that you won't get your iron either from your diet. But oysters are something we would want to eat very minimally and infrequently. Otherwise, beef, by comparison, doesn't have nearly as much zinc. It is about 15 to 27 milligrams per steak. We're looking at a 3 to 4 ounce size. In addition to animal products rich in zinc, which coincidentally have iron also, are the pumpkin seeds, the peanuts, the cashews, the sunflower seeds. So all pretty cool, these perfect little packages of nutrients. Selenium, if you recall, is an antioxidant. It works with vitamin E as its nutrient buddy. It will an antioxidant for the whole body, unlike the conditional factor of zinc. Selenium also plays a powerful role as part of the enzymes for your thyroid hormones. Incredibly important for homeostasis of the human body and metabolism. Dietary sources, folks, are going to be both meat and plant-based. The ones I have listed are the highest possible. When we experience a deficiency in selenium, not real common, but if we do, because mind you, it's a minor or a trace mineral, the deficiency will express itself as muscular weakness or pain or an inability to manage inflammation in the human body. Selenium, lysinc, and biotin. A disruption in the quantity can promote hair loss. In this case, when we overconsume selenium, an overconsumption of selenium also result in brittle, chipping nails. A person could experience diarrhea, disruption to the homeostasis of the body, and in extreme cases can result in abnormalities of their bones, joints, and nerves. But mind you, that's really hardcore excessive intake. All right, fluoride is an important mineral. It actually plays the role specifically with its nutrient buddy calcium and vitamin E. Why? Because every time you consume calcium, it's dynamic. It goes into your bones, it comes out of your bones. It goes into your teeth and comes out of your teeth. Well, you don't want calcium to come out of your teeth. There's no blood there that it needs to practice homeostasis with. So you need to retain all of your calcium. And the way you do this is either by brushing your teeth with fluoridated toothpaste, swishing with fluoridated rinse aids, or drinking tap water. Because tap water has very small quantities of fluoride, parts per million in it. And even though it's little, the more we drink, the more exposure at small increments we get. So the fluoride causes the calcium crystals, once they come into your teeth, to expand so that they can't actually break down and exit your teeth. This helps remineralize the enamel, creating that outer structure, protecting your teeth from things like bacteria, the development of plaque and bacteria feeding off of that. When a person overconsumes fluoride, it's known as fluorosis of the teeth. And this is where you get the discoloration. And how do we prevent that? Well, one, don't go crazy, oh my gosh, in consuming fluoride. But vitamin E. Vitamin E as an antioxidant actually helps offset it. So pretty cool. Now, fluorosis of the skeletal structure is a problem, folks. You need the calcium to be dynamic to go in and out of your bones body wide, and that means we do not want to ingest fluoride. Hence why fluoride is for the mouth only. Let's see, is there anything else I need you guys to know about fluoride? No, that's good. Okay. Iodine, folks, necessary for your metabolism. If we have a deficiency of iodine, it will express itself as in the picture of the woman with this large goiter. It's the swelling of the thyroid. If in extreme cases, a deficiency can result in death because you need iodine to maintain metabolism, which is really in the end the ticker to maintain life. Overconsumption of iodine, on the other hand, can also really swell up the thyroid and can be fatal. Because why? We're designed to achieve homeostasis as best we can. Thyroid is abundant in our seafood. Basically, it's an ocean mineral, but you want to take into consideration iodine is also in our soil. And in the United States, our soil that we grow our plants in is rich in iodine. Great if we're eating produce and grains from the United States. But when we import our foods from other countries, there is no guarantee that their soil is rich in iodine, which means we may not be getting the same amount of iodine in our diet. Something to pause and consider when we eat foods brought in from other countries. And milk. Milk is a great source of iodine also. Right? Sulfate. Folks, this is not on your chart for vitamins and minerals only because it's just, you can sit back and listen to this one. It is necessary in our DNA for the sulfur-sulfur, the disulfide bridge. If you recall, that's what causes your protein structure, your protein strands to coil and curl. It is vital for your body's production, utilization of biotin and thiamine. We're predominantly getting sulfate from our protein sources, which is interestingly going to be our seafood and our nuts, but our fruits are also a rich source, as are our grains, of sulfate. So no concern about you accessing it. Never a need to take it as a supplement. It's just not necessary. All right, chromium, just necessary in metabolism of your macronutrients, carbohydrates, and fat. It plays a role in blood glucose homeostasis. But again, this is a trace mineral that is so minimal, no concerns about us accessing it. Copper also plays a vital role in blood management in the human body. Also collagen production, which gives your gives the tautness, the strength to your skin. We can easily access it through cocoa, chocolate, nuts, and seeds, so no concern there. If a person were deficient in copper, it would be secondary as a response to a deficiency in iron. And then in that case, that could impact things like metabolism and a person's immune response. Very rarely do people exceed their copper intake. Those are like stories of people we read in journals. All right, if you're really interested in taking supplements, folks, vitamins and minerals, I can't emphasize enough, please then investigate consumerlab.com to find out which are really the quality ones. And practice caution. Dietitians do not generally advocate supplements. There is a time and a place. There always will be. But for the general public, it really does not exist. Okay, that's the end of your minerals section. You have a minerals quiz that attaches to this. And there was some golden information in there for you to answer on your short answers as part of the DAP project.